Disclaimer before I begin. This is by no means me losing faith within this game, as Halo Infinite still has many aspects that I like, and I still believe the game has much promise, depending on the context of what we know. However, given the things that we do know, the wording that 343 has used to describe the game, and just what we've seen so far, I have to make this video because I am not going to lie with you or to you. This game worries me. And no, I don't just mean like I have my minor concerns based on little things. This legitimately worries me. Now, I'm just going to be clear with this. If you're fully excited to this game and have no issues surrounding it or very little issues or whatever, then by all means, don't let me stop you from being excited for it. In fact, honestly, if you're that desperate not to have your bubble popped or something along those lines, then I recommend clicking away from this video now, as I am really going to highlight the aspects of this game that really worry me and honestly just make me concerned overall. So, yeah, let's get started. Now, I'm just going to be clear, there's a lot more with this game that worries me than just, say, like the graphics. But let's get started with that. I guess, we can get started with the graphics. And honestly, it's not impressive. I mean, what happened? What the freak happened? It's like 2 years ago, we got the Halo Infinite reveal trailer. It looked pretty darn incredible. I mean, obviously some textures needed some work, but, as the reveal, it looked fantastic. Then the Discover Hope trailer came out last year, which looked, also really good, and, to a degree, even better. And then we get to the gameplay demo finally, and it's like, what's happened? Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think this game is looking as bad as people try to say it does. I mean, I've seen people try to compare this to, oh, it looks like a 360 game. And I'm like, okay, it is not that far. But that doesn't mean it's good either. I mean, at the end of the day, this game honestly is so basic. And before people go into the defense saying, oh, Halo fans wanted the classic art style and now you're getting it, you're complaining. And it's like, look, when we said we wanted the classic art style with everything being simple, we don't mean literal, just literal, just plain white blocks that looks like something you see out of a Minecraft or Mega Bloks game. It's like, when we're saying simple, we just don't mean don't over detail things. That doesn't mean literally have something so basic that it's like it feels unreal. So, I mean, that's the first problem that I can say straight away with the environments, because the world just doesn't feel that lived in. It doesn't feel that alive. It doesn't feel organic. The best way I can say it is it doesn't feel like a living planet in a sense. It feels very fake. And it looks fake. I mean, you take a lot of these designs and they're just so bare boned. They're so minimalistic. And it doesn't help that the character models have this borderline cartoony basis. And, I'm not going to say Halo's always been that type of game where its graphics have really been something to jaw drop at, but they've always been, at the very least, they've always been minorly impressive. They've always had this basis on, you can look at them and clearly see a clear upgrade from one game to the other. And it's like, this game just doesn't. It really doesn't. Like, this game, honestly, I hate to say it, but in a lot of areas it looks worse than Halo 5 and even Halo 4 before it. And it's strange to me. Now, look, I know people have said this is an older build that could range anywhere from 6 months to a year, which, if that's the case, good. Hopefully the game will look a lot better at launch, but, I just have to go by what we've seen. And this is just really unimpressive. And even just going by the context of last year and the year before, it's like I've seen demos that look way better than this. And it's just one of those things where there's hardly anything impressive about it. I mean, literally, probably the most accurate comparison I heard is that it's like taking Halo Wars 2's graphics and just putting you on the ground. Because that's just how overly basic and like lack of detail there is. Like there's so little detail and the lighting's off and all of it, and it's like I said, even the textures and the shadows and all that, even in the event that that gets fixed, it's just so it's borderline just cartoony. Like again, it looks like a Mega Bloks game. And that to me is just the first major problem that you can see. Now, look, I'm just going to say this flat out. This by itself is not a deal breaker for me. I've always prioritized gameplay over graphics because that to me is way more important. So, as long as the game has insane gameplay, then, everything's okay, right? Well, that'd be the case if its gameplay was overly impressive, but it really isn't. It more or less looks like your standard open world type game, just raiding banished camps and, killing enemies, getting a small bit of loot, and that's it. It's like, something I described with my reaction was simply put, the biggest thing I described in the most simplistic way back when Infinite, back when I reacted to the gameplay, I was just saying it's like, it's not necessarily bad, but there's nothing in here that impresses me. There's nothing in here that makes me think, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I totally gotta get this game right now. There's none of those moments. There's nothing in here that gives me that feeling. And to make it even worse, it's like, I don't know what the rest of the game's gonna look like. It's one of those things where, because of the gameplay trailer being so limiting, because honestly, it looks like it, I hope it's not the case, but it honestly just all looks like it's part of the same level. And I hope that's true, because if the entire game is just going to look like the gameplay trailer, where it's just venturing from one little thing to the other without any major, like, differentiate in location, environment, level design, it's like this game's campaign is going to get boring really fast. I mean, look, I'm just going to be full out. It's just the campaign doesn't look overly promising. It doesn't look like something that I'm overly hyped for, because it's very basic. It's insanely basic. And there's nothing in there that made me go, oh my gosh, that's awesome. Seriously, what did the gameplay showcase that was so amazing? I mean, you get the standard open world type environment. You got 3 new weapons, or I guess you could kind of say 4, but let's be for real. The 4th weapon is just a retooled version of an already existing weapon. But it's like, you get the 4 new weapons. The human gun just looks like something pulled straight out of Destiny. Then you got the Covenant guns, which are just both burst weapons. And it's like, really? That's all you could come up with? Like, what happened to weapons like the Hydra or the Plasma Caster from Halo 5? Where it's like those weapons were insanely unique. They had their own function. They had their own differentiate. There was a reason why those weapons were being showcased. This, I get a variant of the assault rifle, 2 variants of a battle rifle type gun, and a revolver. An alien revolver. That's it, as far as weapons are concerned. And I combine that with just the way the enemies look, the way they react, the way they act. I mean, there were some nice highlights. I mean, in particular, the Brute throwing the suicide grunt was sort of enjoyable, but it's just, everything just looks so dull and lifeless. Like, it's hard for me to describe it in words. And then, oh my gosh, I swear to goodness, the minute I saw Chief sprint to the Warthog, I just went, oh, come on. And that's kind of where the fear that Fabian brought up is sort of coming to pass, where they're going for the hybrid approach, which I'm now overly concerned about because I feel like that's just going to alienate the Halo community even further. Because now we're going to have not only the divide between classic Halo and Halo 5, but now we're going to have these people that like the hybrid, and then we're going to have it where this game screws up both parties between Halo 5 and Classic. And so it's like, I don't know how they're going to put this, because that's the whole thing. It's like, for Classic Halo, it still has aspects that are not going to make it feel like a classic Halo game, which is still going to piss off the old fans. And then you're going to have it where, for people that liked Halo 5, every aspect of the game, as far as your mobility and your options, are neutered. And so it's like, now what? Then what do you do? It's like, it's very concerning, because honestly, it's like, either they should have went back to classic Halo, or they should have kept the Halo 5 approach. They shouldn't have, because it's something I kind of explained before, and it's something where I agreed with Fabian, and where he describes Halo 5, like a Halo 5 type game probably would be the best standalone package, given it's what 343 is familiar with and what they know. But it just wouldn't be the best for the long-term future. And then for Classic Halo, it's the opposite. The initial game wouldn't be the greatest, but the long-term future would be secured for the most part, as long as we as the community gave them the feedback needed to make it better. But it's like, this is like the worst of both worlds in a sense, because what's unique about it? What's unique about its gameplay that we haven't seen in other games? It's like, literally, if I just wanted to play a standard open world game with shooting aliens, I would go and play Destiny. I knew from the beginning, ever since the reveal trailer, they were going to take an open world approach. But the idea of that was going to be Halo's take. It was going to be Halo's... It was going to be Halo's design for an open world. Not freaking, the whole idea was, I had the belief that the open world was going to be built to accommodate for Halo, similar to how, say, a game like ODST was. At the very least, or just have certain missions where it's open world, while others are more linear. Something along those lines. But it doesn't seem like that. It seems like the whole game is going to have this open world approach, and it's like there's not even going to be a singular progression of missions or such. And it's just, it's concerning to me, because in my opinion, that's just going to really mess up a lot of the things that made Halo's gameplay special. And, at the end of the day, what I'm also scared about is that it's just, there's barely anything there. Like, no sign of any returning characters. No sign of any basis of what the overall conflict is going to be on. And I guess, with the presentation and the gameplay getting out of the way, I'm probably going to cover the story now. And it's like, what the heck is going on? It's like, I knew back when the banners got revealed, it's like, I was excited. I was like, dang, that's going to be pretty cool. But I didn't think for a second that they were going to hijack the entire game. Which is what it looks like. It looks like they're literally hijacking the entire game. Because it's like, there's not even a mention of the Created, or the Prometheans, or anything along those lines. There's not even a mention. Unless the Harbinger, the thing that the Brute says, has any connection to Cortana or anything, it's like, it's completely disconnected. And, how does that make sense? So, what, the game's gonna press the restart button a second time? Like, it already did that with Halo 5. Halo 5 basically threw away all the plot lines from Halo 4 in Sparanops. So now what? Halo Infinite's just gonna go ahead and turn around and do the same thing all over again? And just throw away the Created plotline, throw away the Prometheans, and the mystery around the Forerunners and all that, just for the sake of What, a story about fighting the Banished? Like, come on! That's like literally a spin-off game. That's just a spin-off game that features Master Chief. That's not, in my view, that is not part 6 of an epic saga. It's not even close to that. Like, it's just the whole thing is the scale of the conflict here feels so small. It feels so, like, limited. And so not even the story I can say I'm invested in. I mean, look, I may have not enjoyed what Halo 5 did. In fact, I pretty much was heartbroken, felt betrayed. A part of me never wanted to touch Halo's storyline again. But, when you look back on it, you think about it and you begin to understand some of the potential that stories like that had. And you think about it, it's kind of like Halo 5's story failed more because of its execution than a lot of the ideas coming into it. I mean, even the thing with Cortana, which I considered character suicide, I mean, I feel like 343 more or less failed with that because of its approach and kind of the direction 343 wanted to look at it from. Because they were whole saying, oh, Cortana's not actually evil, she's just doing something we disagree with. Instead of they should have been blunt, like very blunt and go, yeah, Cortana's being corrupted by something and now she wants to kill everyone or something. Like, just very straightforward. They didn't do it because the execution of Halo 5's story sucked. But that doesn't mean I want every plot line that Halo 5 set up to be dropped or wrapped up within the first, few minutes of this game. Or for this, or just for those aspects to be forgotten about. Like, do you have any idea, as a Halo fan, as a fan of this story, as someone who gets invested within the Halo stories, do you have any idea how jarring that is? Because it is. How am I supposed to get invested into any storyline if it's just going to reset itself during the next game? What's the point? It's like when you think about Halo 1 through 3, it's like none of them reset. None of them did a reboot of itself. It just, it continued the storyline and it built on the foundations of the last game. Sometimes not to the greatest extent, cough cough Halo 3, but it did it. And it's like, I don't understand why this game seems hell-bent to try to pretend Halo 5 doesn't exist. Because again, I may not personally like that game that much, but that being said, there are still good aspects about it. There are still aspects that are legitimately good and have a lot to offer. Yet it just seems like in this game, they're not following through with any of that. And then when you combine that with the graphics being unimpressive, I mean, it's like, look, I don't expect games to have the sickest graphics ever, but for goodness sakes, not only is this a next-gen game, but it's been 5 years. 5 bloody years since Halo 5, and this is all they can deliver us? Really? Really? That's all. And I don't want to hear people say that, oh, it's all COVID's fault. COVID's only been around for this year. They have 4 years so far to set this foundation straight before COVID was even a concept in China's drawing board. Oh my gosh, I can't even think. It's just... oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. I mean, you factor in that presentation just being extremely unimpressive. You factor in the storyline just seeming like it's just resetting itself again and just trying to pretend that the previous games don't exist. And then you factor in the gameplay, which is like, it's tight and refined, which is nice, but there's nothing shocking. There's nothing jaw-dropping. There's nothing in there that's going to make me think, oh my gosh, this game is going to be insane. I mean, even Halo 5, despite a lot of the grief I give that game looking back on it, at least had a good marketing campaign. Not just in Hunt the Truth, because that's literally false advertising, but just a lot of the gameplay and stuff was really good. It was really well set up and well marketed. This game does not have good marketing at all. And I sincerely hope, in fact, to a degree, I pray that this is not representative of what the final product is going to look and be like. Because if it is, then this game is going to have a lot of problems and a lot of worries. And it's literally one of those things where I'm worried. This game doesn't look finished. It doesn't look ready. Like, honestly, I feel like the game has to be delayed another year. And it's just, it's like, despite wanting to love it, despite wanting to look at it and go, oh my gosh, it's so great, the art style's back, it doesn't have all the enhanced mobility junk, it doesn't do this, or it doesn't do that, or all that sort of stuff. And you see kind of the issue here? The things I'm praising are the things they don't have, not what they do have. And that's sort of an issue to the point where what worries me is I don't think this game is going to end up like a disaster like Halo 5, but I think it's just going to be bare bones. It's like a good comparison that I would kind of make with the Halo campaigns is someone compared it a lot to the Star Wars sequel trilogy, and I couldn't help but agree, because to a degree, Halo 4 is The Force Awakens, Halo 5 is The Last Jedi, and now it looks like, just as far as what we've seen, Halo Infinite's just going to end up being Rise of Skywalker, where it's one of those things where it's not going to be a disaster, but there's nothing special about it. I mean, it's just going to fall into the plague of mediocrity, and honestly, that scares me. Like, I'm honestly worried about this game coming out at the end of this year. And I'm not just referring to, it might not be the game for me. I'm legitimately scared that the game's just going to be mediocre or might even suck. And I can't have that. I can't have that from Halo again. I can't deal with that again. It's like after a long time of just waiting after the depression basis of Halo 5 and just seeing Halo legitimately take steps into the right direction with a lot of the books and comics, and having Halo Wars 2 be really good. The Halo arcade game that you can find at your Dave & Buster's. I mean, those are, that was really good. And then you got, like, the reveal trailer with the classic art style coming back, and aspects of the story legitimately exciting me. And then this is where it ends up. Like, it's one of those things where... Is it one of those things where literally it's just going to build up all these good things just for it to end in mediocrity and for it to suck? Because honestly, if that's the case, if that honestly is the end point, then just, why did you even bother improving it? Honestly. Why did you even bother? Because I don't want that. There is almost nothing I hate more than a franchise or a game legitimately giving me hope. Because I legitimately thought Halo Infinite could have been, say, what Modern Warfare is right now to Call of Duty. The legitimate step of redemption. And it doesn't look like that. It looks like just trying to capitalize and cash in on our nostalgia. And the solid truth is that I won't fall for it. Alright? I'm not going to let myself fall for it. If this game doesn't show anything else, and if this is what the whole game is supposed to represent, yeah, I ain't buying the Series X for that. And honestly, I don't know yet. I don't even know if I would buy it for Xbox One. Because I can't. I can't let myself be broken by a game yet again. I can't. Look, believe me, there is no one honestly, there is almost no one on this community who would want to be more excited for this game than me. Believe me. Back when Halo 5, before that came out, I was hyped out of my mind. I was thinking the campaign was going to be epic, that it was going to be, best in the series quality. I was thinking that the multiplayer was going to be insanely fun and competitive, and it was going to have a lot of fun aspects. And You know what? My hype for Halo 5 consumed so much of me that I ignored the red flags. I ignored things related to Hunt the Truth. I ignored things um, related to the lack of split screen or the lack of content and all those sort of stuff. I ignored that. I didn't pay any attention to it because I couldn't let anything distract me from being hyped for the game. I became warped, and despite the red flags telling me and borderline showing me that Halo 5 was going to have problems, that it could have even ended in a disaster, I didn't listen. And look where that got me. And the biggest thing I'm going to say is I won't let that happen again. Because I can't. I can't, in good conscience, let that happen again. I can't let myself get hyped for a game that barely shows any information in regards to its existence, and the little it does show is unimpressive. I mean, this is where I'm going to simply state the most simple term. Bigger is not always better. 343 can claim all they want, they're going to make the biggest and most ambitious Halo game ever. But that alone won't make the game good. Because at the end of the day, who cares if who cares if the world is ultra big if it's empty and flat? I would rather take a smaller world, a smaller location, a smaller level that has livelihood and has good level design and tons of gameplay variety than a level that is completely open but leaves you with little to nothing to do. So I'm going to leave this as my final note and my warning to 343. Step up. Because I won't fall for your attempts of nostalgia. I won't fall for it. You step up and make this game good before it releases at the end of this year. And if you can't before the end of this year, then delay the game again and get your crap right. And no, I don't care if it's, oh, you have to launch it with the Xbox or stuff. I don't care about that. Halo hasn't been a system seller in years. It hasn't. So, if you can't even accomplish that, at the very least owe it to your community. A community that has followed you and has forgiven you several times to deliver a Halo game that they can truly be satisfied with. I'm not asking for perfection. I'm not asking for Halo 3 level of epic. I'm asking for a competent game that can live up to the legacy of Bungie. That's all I want. It's up to you to deliver that. And if you can't, if you legitimately, despite having 5 years and over $500 million worth of budget and a development that is supposed to be, at least on the surface, way smoother and less chaotic than the development of both Halo 4 and 5, then you need to leave this franchise alone. Because you continuously trying to Frankenstein a horse is not going to fix anything. If you revive and resurrect that horse, you better make sure that the resurrected horse looks even better than when it started. And that's all I want. I want a true basis to say that Halo has come a long way. But I can't. I can't say that right now. I can't say that. I can't hold it in myself to say that. Because if I did, I wouldn't be genuine. I wouldn't hold it in my mind. I wouldn't be real with myself. And it's just, it's a shame. If this is truly the destiny of the game, if this is truly, destiny, no pun intended, but, joking aside, if this is truly where the game is going to end up, then that's a shame. because I did have high hopes. You know, I knew better than to let my expectations exceed the roof, but I kept them decent. I didn't put it at rock bottom because I legitimately thought that after 2 games from learning and over 5 games from Bungie you could draw from, and even a little bit from your 2 own games, that this game could truly come to be something special. But I just don't see it right now. And unless you have something really jaw-dropping and incredible to show, unless the graphics take a 180 and literally just end up looking like these perfected, gorgeous graphics, like, who knows? Maybe with ray tracing it will look better, but I don't know. And I can't gamble over a promise. I can't gamble my love and passion for something that may happen. I can't commit to a one-sided relationship. If this game is not, if 343 and Halo are not going to give the time and effort that the community deserves and what I deserve as a member of that community, then I'm not going to put the effort for them. That's not out of hatred or animosity, it is out of apathy. Because it's getting to that point. I'm close to that point where if this game comes out and it sucks and it's not good and it just is at best bare bones and at worst another disaster that's flat and lifeless, because again, I may not have liked Halo 5, but at least it had good ideas. At least it tried to push boundaries. This doesn't even look like it's trying to. Will it come out, like, you know, do I think it'll end up better than Halo 5? Maybe. Maybe it will. But that's also a subjective looking, because it may be consistently overall a better experience, but just by what I've seen right now, I don't think it may not come as low as Halo 5's lows, but I don't think it'll hit the same highs that Halo 5 did. So I don't even know. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. I don't know how to feel. Because this campaign doesn't overly excite me. It's basic, it's bare bones, there's nothing to there. If it's just literally just going to be Chief fighting the Banished the whole game, story-wise, it's just like, well then what's the point of the last 2 games? Halo 5 may have thrown away most plot elements from Halo 4, but at least there was some continuity with it, where you could connect those 2 games. This just feels completely off. And so, if that's all the story's going to be, if this is all the graphics are going to look like, if this is all the gameplay's going to play out... Oh, and that's not even mentioning the freaking grappling hook, which is just going to completely break level design, but I'll probably cover that in its own video. But if this is all that it's going to turn out to be, then yeah, darn right I'm worried. Downright I'm scared. Downright I'm just concerned out of my mind, and honestly, if the game launches like this, if this is truly the best the game can offer, which demos are supposed to do that, they're supposed to show aspects of the game at its best. You know, I'm not saying it has to show the best level in the game, but it should at the very least show a level that's up there. So if this is like their 3rd or 4th best level, then I'm not impressed. And if it launches like that, if it launches with something this bare bones and this lifeless, I'm honestly not going to care about Halo after this point. And I'm not even kidding when I say that. I mean, this is truly to the point where my love for the franchise would just be dead. Or at the very least, like, dying. At the very least, laying dormant. Because the thing about Halo 4 and 5 is, despite all their errors, for one, I had faith in their improvement. And then even taking that away, at least the aspects that I hated so much, at least it felt so different that I could at least detach myself from it. At least I could find a way to detach it from my love to the Bungie games. This game won't do that. This game's going out of its way to try to quote unquote be as close to the Bungie games as possible with the levels and everything like that and the art style. And it's just like, if it sucks, then not only is it just gonna suck in its own merits and I'm not gonna like it, but it's honestly probably going to leave a bad taste in my mouth that will carry through whenever I quote unquote eat the Bungie Halo game sandwiches ever again. And it scares me. Because the biggest thing that scares me is that I honestly, it just looks like I'm hoping 343 actually learned. But it just doesn't look like that. Literally, it just looks like they just got a checkbox and just took everything surface level on what the fans wanted. It's like, oh, people like Master Chief. Let's have him be in the whole game with no side characters except for one pilot guy. Oh, people like the Banished. Let's have them take over the whole game with literally no connections or references to the previous two games that we established. Oh, people liked Halo Combat Evolved because it was so open-ended. Let's have that too. Except we're not going to have the proper lifespan, and we don't have the proper excuse that Halo CE did with limited time and technology. Oh, people loved the great variety of weapons that Halo presented. Let's literally have 3 versions of the same gun. There's nothing more for me to say that I haven't already said. I'm worried. I'm scared. I don't know. By the rings, I never thought it would come to this. I hope, well, yeah. That's about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please, if you did, I know it's not the most professional. I tried to keep it well organized, but I definitely did stutter a lot. And that's because I'm more or less just reacting to the order of my thoughts. But I digress. Hopefully next video will be a lot more positive. But I'm scared, worried, and honestly, for a trailer and a game that's supposed to deliver me hope, I haven't felt this much hope being taken away in a while. Well, yeah. Well, until next time, guys, this is King Orange, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.